Hello, my name is Heather Wolf. Um, we are back again reading Robyn Carr's book, What We Find. We are on chapter 2, so let's begin. It's different when it's your father. When your father is Sully, the most beloved general store owner in 100 square miles. Maggie felt a rising panic that she hoped didn't show. First, she gave him an aspirin. Then she rattled off medication orders to the EMT. Though she wasn't the physician in charge, and it would have to be approved via radio. Poor Mr. Gunderson ended up in the back of Stan's squad car, and Sully was put on the gurney. The emergency tech immediately started an EKG, slapping electrodes onto his chest, getting an oxygen mask over his nose and mouth. Maggie was in the ambulance immediately, reading the EKG as it was feeding out. Bo was barking and jumping outside the ambulance door, trying to get inside. Bo, Maggie yelled. No, Bo, stay. She heard a whistle, then a disappointed whine. Then the door to the ambulance closed and they pulled away. Maggie, Sully said, pulling the mask away. See, he didn't follow? I don't leave him very much. Maggie peeked out the back window. It's okay, Dad. He's in front of the porch with that guy, that camper. Enid will see he's taken care of. The driver was on the radio saying they were en route with a possible coronary. The lost guy with dementia? The dispatcher asked. Negative. We got Sully from the store. Chest pains, diaphoretic, BP 190 over 120, pulse rapid and thready. His daughter is with us, Dr. Maggie Sullivan. She wants us to draw an epi and administer nitro. She stuck an aspirin in his mouth. Is he conscious? I'm conscious, Sully whispered. Maggie, I ain't quite ready. Easy, Dad, easy. I'm right here for you, Maggie said. Let's start some ringers, TKO. Not you, Sully said. You're shaking. You want me to do it, Sully? The young EMT asked. Better you than her. Look at her. Then he moaned. We need morphine, Maggie said. Get an order from the morphine and ask for airlift to Denver. We have to transport to Denver stat. Give me the IV set up. She got the IV started immediately, so fast the EMT said, Wow. A few years ago, Walter, her stepfather, had suffered a small stroke. That was her territory, and she handled him with calm and ease. He was treated immediately. The recovery was swift, his disability minor, and addressed in physical therapy in a matter of weeks, a textbook case. This felt entirely different. Give me your cell phone, she said to the EMT. She didn't have hers, of course, because it was back at Sully's in her purse. The young man handed it over without question, and she called me up to the hospital. This is Dr. Maggie Sullivan. I'm in an ambulance with my father, en route to you. I don't have my cell. Can you connect me with Dr. Rob Hollis? It's an emergency. Thank you. It took only a moment. What have you got, Maggie? Her friend Rob asked. My dad, 17-year-old man, she said, running through his symptoms. The EMT is running an EKG and we can send it. She looked at the EMT. We can send it, right? Right. If we get medical airlift from Timberlake, we'll be there in no time. Will you meet me? Absolutely, he said. Try to stay calm. I'm good, she said. She's a wreck, Sully muttered. Airlift gonna cost a goddamn fortune. I gave him a nitro, oxygen, and morphine. He seems to be comfortable. EKG coming to the ER for you. It was not like this with Walter. With Walter, whom she'd become close to once she'd passed through adolescence, she was able to be a physician, objective, cool, and confident. With Sully, she was a daughter clinging to her medical training with an internal fear that if anything terrible happened to him, she would be forever lost. Sully was not experiencing terrible pain once the morphine kicked in. His breathing was slightly labored, and his blood pressure remained high. Maggie watched over him through the transfer into a medical transport helicopter and stayed with him while he was taken into the emergency room where Dr. Hollis waited. Jesus, Maggie, Rob said, his stethoscope going immediately to Sully's chest. Nothing like making an entrance. Who are you? Sully asked. Rob Hollis, cardiac surgeon. And you must be Sully. He picked up a section of the EKG tape, glancing at it almost casually. We're going to run a few tests, draw some blood, bring down that blood pressure if possible, and then very probably, depending on the test results, go to the OR and perform a bypass surgery. Do you know what that is? Sure I do, Sully said, his voice tired and soft. I'm the last one on my block to get one. Maggie, this is going to take a while, even though we'll push it through with stat orders. Maybe you should go to the doctor's lounge and rest. She should go grab a beer and find a poker game, but she don't need no rest, Sully said. She's plenty rested. I'll stay with my dad, she said. I'll keep out of your way. You're going to be bored, Herb said. Not as long as he's breathing, she thought. I'll manage. Maggie knew almost everyone in the hospital, in the ER and the OR. Because of her stature as a surgeon, she was given many updates on the tests, the results, the surgery. She even thought to ask one of her friends, an operating room charge nurse, for the loan of her car once Sully was out of recovery, out of danger, and resting comfortably in the coronary care unit. Here she was in Denver with no vehicle, no purse, no credit cards, phone, nothing, but there was a spare key to her house under the flower pot on the back patio, and she could write a counter check at her bank for cash. There might even be a duplicate or extra credit or debit card she didn't keep in her purse. In her closet there would be something to wear. In fact, there were drawers full of scrubs if it came to that. She wasn't bored, and she'd had plenty of sleep before Sully's medical emergency, but by the time she stood at his bedside in the CCU at 5 a.m, she was so exhausted she could hardly stand up. She had the wiggles from too much caffeine, looked like bloody hell, and hadn't had a shower since leaving Denver for Sullivan's Crossing. It reminded her of some of those days in residency when she stayed at the hospital for over 48 hours with only a cat nap here and there. This time it was all stress. She went home in her borrowed car to freshen up. She located an old wallet and purse, found a credit card she didn't often use in her file cabinet, and was back at the hospital by 8. By 9, they were rousing Sully. Maggie, you gotta get me out of here, he rasped. They won't leave me alone. There's nothing you can do but be your charming self, she said. They got some breathing thing they force on me every hour, he complained, and I'm starving to death, and it feels like they opened up my chest with a Black & Decker saw. I'll ask for more pain meds, she offered. She lifted a hand toward the nurse and got a nod in return. Maggie, you gotta go run the store. The store is fine. I called Enid an hour ago, gave her a progress report, and checked on them. Frank stayed with her yesterday, till closing. They took Bo home with them, and they should be opening up about now. She's going to call Tom Kennedy and see if he has any extra time to help out. It's all taken care of. He just groaned and closed his eyes. About time Frank worked off some of that coffee he's been freeloading. What about you? He asked. What about me? I'm here for you. I'm here with you. He opened his eyes. They were just not his usual warm or mischievous brown eyes. They were angry. I'm not good with hospitals. I've never been in one before. She thought for a moment, because surely he was wrong. Huh? She finally said. Never? That's something, Sully. 70 years old and never spent a night in the hospital? Turns out I knew what I was doing. Look what happens. They have a tube shoved up my catheter, she said. Get it out. Now. The nurse arrived with the syringe, putting it in the IV. You should feel a lot better in just a few minutes, Mr. Sullivan. How long do I have to stay here? In the care unit? Just a day or two. Then I can go home? That's a good question for the doctor, but it's usually anywhere from 3 to 8 days. I'll do 2, you said, without missing a beat. That's all I got. There's recovery time involved after heart surgery, Dad, Maggie said. And what are you going to do? I'm going to stay with you, take care of you. He was quiet for a moment. God help me, he whispered. We're going to need a lot more drugs, Maggie thought. A great deal of maneuvering was required for Maggie to get her affairs in order, so to speak. According to Enid, Tom Kennedy, their handyman and helper, was going to adjust his schedule to spend more time at Sully's. Tom had a lot of jobs. He drove a tow truck, worked on car repairs in a service station, drove a plow in winter, and did road work in summer, which kept him on the county payroll. He did a variety of handyman and maintenance jobs around the area. He'd do just about anything if the money was right, because he was a single father with 4 kids, aged 12 to 19. Sometimes he'd bring 1 or 2 along to help him, or just to hang out with him. And now, when Tom couldn't work, he could send his oldest son, Jackson, the 19-year-old. Maggie asked Enid if she could come to Denver to pick her up, drive her back to Sully's where she would get her own car and some incidentals like her cell phone, purse, extra clothes, makeup, and the like. Also, she would get some clothing and a shaving kit for Sully, who was not going back home soon, as subject she was not looking forward to discussing with him. Enid said she'd be at the hospital in the morning. Can I see him when I get there? She asked. You don't want to see him, Enid. He's a huge pain in the ass. He's been complaining and trying to get out of here from the minute he arrived, and the fact that he can hardly get out of bed hasn't deterred him one bit. Well, I could have told you it would be like that. Maggie was waiting outside the hospital's front entrance for Enid, when who should pull up in a banged-up old red pickup truck but Frank. Maggie sighed. Just what I need. 2 hours held captive by Frank. All the way back to Sullivan's Crossing, Frank droned on and on about the evils of government and every conspiracy theory ever imagined, including his belief that commercial jetliners were spraying the atmosphere with enhanced jet stream in an effort to lower the temperature of the Earth to combat global warming, of which there ain't no damn such thing anyhow. By the time they got back to the crossing, she was exhausted all over again. I can't believe you did that to me, she said to Enid. You find him a little talkative, Maggie? She asked, with a teasing smile. He got there, didn't he? We're a little short-handed around here, you know. Maggie hurried to gather up what she needed and asked Enid to make her a sandwich. Already done, cupcake, turkey and Swiss on a whole grain, and I packed up a box of cookies and muffins for Sully. I'm afraid his cookie and muffin days are over for now. Listen, Enid, we can put a sign on the door, close up for a while. You and Frank just can't handle the whole place on your own. We're getting by all right, honey. People understand about this stuff like this. Tom's been here with his boy. That camper with the pop-up trailer, he's even been pitching in. Nice fella, Cal. Oh, Enid, he'll probably steal the silver, if we had any. Nah, he's a good kind of fella. He's got that spot and asked for a weekly rate. I offered him the house for his shower, but he said he's doing just fine. He's probably homeless, Maggie said. You know, we don't really know these people. Tom offered to try to spend some nights around here, but we don't hardly have anybody in the park anyhow. And besides, we got Cal here if there's trouble, which there ain't likely to be. Cal's got a cell phone. He'll probably break into the store and clean us out the first night. And Maggie, the first night's come and gone, and he's still here helping out. You've been in the city too long. That isn't gonna happen honey. And for sure, not in March. No one's passing through in this muck and mess. But there had been times when the police or sheriff or ranger had to be called, when a few campers had a little too much fun, too much to drink, got aggressive. Sully had a baseball bat he took with him if he went out to see what was going on late at night. There was a domestic once when Maggie was young, some man knocking around his woman, and Sully just couldn't resist. He decked him, knocked him out. Maggie had been stunned, not just that her dad would do that, but he was that strong. Plus, even though she'd always been told we never hit, no matter what, she had adored him for it. It was true, the crossing was mostly peaceful, but they were isolated, especially from November to March, and from time to time had a little trouble. They didn't have any paid security like some of the bigger or state-operated campgrounds, just Sully. Maggie could count on one hand the number of nights Sully had spent away from the campground. Her graduations, her wedding. Was it awful? Ina asked of Sully's heart attack. I was terrified, Maggie whispered back. Maggie went back to Denver to a hospital she knew well and commenced that would become 3 of the longest weeks of her life. Sully was healing nicely and making great progress, and he was incorrigible. He sulked he didn't follow explicit instructions. He got very constipated, and it riled him beyond measure. He began speaking abusively to the nursing staff. He went from stonily silent to loud and abrasive. He wouldn't eat his food, and he was moved to a private room because Maggie couldn't bear the effect he had on his roommate. What is the matter with you? She ground out. Besides the fact that my chest was ripped open and I haven't had a good shit in 10 days? Not a goddamn thing. You haven't been here 10 days, but I'm going to get you fixed right away. And you're going to be sorry you complained to me. She put 2 residents on the job. She told them to use any means available and legal. Just make it happen. She said she didn't want to know how they did it, but they were to see to it he had a bowel movement by morning. When she came in to see Sully the next day, he was smiling, and he was passively pleasant most of the day. After 7 days in the hospital, she took him home to her house. While she was cloistered with him, fed him low-sodium and low-fat foods, took him to rehab every other day, and listened to him bitch for another 13 days. Finally, she took him back to Sullivan's Crossing, and Sully was reborn. His temperament immediately smoothed over, his facial features relaxed. He greeted Enid, Frank, and Tom, and spent about 15 straight minutes greeting Bo. Then Sully ate a salad with turkey slices and complimented Maggie's thoughtfulness for the lunch. I think you dropped 20 pounds, Enid said. 12, and I could spare it. Now, Enid, it looks like I'm going to be keeping Frank company for a while. Maggie says I have to go slow. We should get Tom's boy to help out with things like stocking shelves, get Tom to finish cleaning the gutters, and clearing that trench around the house to the stream, so we don't get flooded, if we aren't already. You aren't, a voice said. I finished clearing that trench, and I checked the basement at your house. Everyone turned to see the man standing in the doorway of the store, Cal. Maggie looked at him closely for the first time. He was somewhere just under 40, with dark brown hair and light brown eyes that twinkled. Cal, Sully said, you're still here? Good to see you. You've been helping out? Cal stuck out a hand. Sorry about the heart troubles, Sully. Glad to see you're doing so well. To tell the truth, you look better than ever. What the devil are you doing here so long? Sully asked, shaking his hand. Well, I could say I was here to help out, but that wouldn't be true. I'm waiting for better weather to check out the CDT. Since I was here, I tried to lend Enid a hand. You did a great job, Sully, Enid said. He's been bringing in the heavy boxes from the storeroom. Helped stock shelves, swept up, hauled trash, the kind of stuff that's on your schedule. That's awful neighborly, Sully said. We'll cut you a check. The man chuckled and ducked his head with a hint of shyness that Maggie was immediately taken with. No need, Sally. I didn't mind helping out. It gave me something to do. If you're camping, you must have had other things on your mind to take up your time. To tell the truth, I must start my planning. I thought I'd pick up the CDT out of Leadville, but where it's not icy, it's flooding. A few chores weren't anything. Enid took care of me. I appreciate the hospitality. Are you planning to leave your vehicle in Leadville? Sally asked. That was the plan. Well, you can leave it here if it suits you and pick up the trail just over that hill, Sally said, pointing. Whenever you're ready and no charge. No charge on the campsite either. You don't have to do that, but it's appreciated. In fact, this being your first day home, I'll stick around a few days in case you need a hand. I don't have urgent plans. Are you homeless? Maggie asked. Everyone stared at her. I mean, you don't need money, and you're in no hurry if you're happy to help. And it's unusual. Not that people aren't friendly, but... He flashed her a beautiful smile. His front teeth were just slightly imperfect, and it gave him a sexy, impish look. No problem. In fact, I am homeless. I'm on the road, probably till fall. But I have the truck, the camper. I'm always on the lookout for places to charge up the laptop and phone, and I think Enid gave me a special treatment. Some of the meals I got here were way better than what's for sale in the cooler. I have what I need for now, and yes, I can pay my own way. Independently wealthy? Maggie asked. And for someone who didn't mean to be rude, she realized she certainly sounded it. Trust fund, maybe? Trust fund, baby? Maggie, Sally reprimanded. She might be a little cranky, Cal, on account of I turned out not to be the best patient on record. No problem at all. I'm the suspicious type myself. No, not a trust fund, baby, Dr. Sullivan. Just a little savings and a lot of patience. He shifted his gaze to Sully. Right now I have time for a game of checkers. Any takers? Don't do it, Sully, Frank said. He's brutal. That makes it irresistible now, don't it? That's when Maggie wandered off to the house. Sally's house was over 100 years old. It had been built when Maggie's great-grandfather was a young man. Before he and his wife had their first child, the improvements and changes since it was originally built were haphazard at best. When old refrigerators died, new ones appeared, and they never matched the original kitchen color or design. The washer and dryer started in the basement, but eventually made it up to the back porch. The porch was finally closed in so a person wouldn't freeze doing laundry in winter. Furniture was replaced as it wore out, but never was a whole room remodeled. It was long overdue. But the design was surprisingly modern for a house built in 1906, and Sully himself had re-roofed it. There was a living room, dining room, and a kitchen with nook on the main floor. There had been 3 bedrooms and a bath, but Sully had installed a master bath attached to the largest bedroom. He had burrowed it into the 3rd bedroom for the space, which left a small, than usual room. So it became his office. Over time, he'd finished off the attic into a cozy loft bedroom, but Maggie had no idea why. He didn't marry again. It wasn't like there were offspring wrestling for space. He'd recently remodeled the basement into what he called a rumpus room. For the grandchildren, I guess I'll never get, he said. No pressure. It's not really too late, Maggie said, if I ever find the time and the right man. There wasn't much to do in winter, so I worked on the house a little bit, Rosalie said. She loved the house, though it was in serious need of a facelift. She spent the afternoon settling their belongings into their rooms. Sully didn't make an appearance. It crossed her mind to check on him, to make sure he wasn't doing too much, but she trusted Enid to keep an eye on him. She came back across the yard to the store a little after 4 and found Sully sitting by the stove with only Bo for company. "Tired?" she asked him. "I never been the nap kind of man, but I'm starting to see the merits," he said. "Did you send Enid and Frank home?" "Nothing going on around here. No need for them to stay. We can close up early, after we have a little nip." He lifted his bushy salt and pepper brows in her direction. "Your friend, the doctor, he said that's all right." "Did he now? You wouldn't lie about that, would you?" "I would if need, but he did indeed say that." Sully got up a bit slower than he used to and walked through the store to the little bar. He went behind while she grabbed a stool. "What's your pleasure?" he asked. "Is there a cold white wine back there with the cork in it? Cork out?" she asked. "No, but it would be my pleasure to uncork this really nice lacrima and let you steal it. You can take it back to the house with you." "That sounds like a plan. Now I'd like you to do something for me, Maggie." "What's that, Dad?" "I'd like you to go out to the porch where that nice Cal Jones just sat down and invite him to join us. Right after you apologize for being such an ass." "Dad!" You'd think I'm kidding around. Really, I didn't raise you like that. And maybe Phoebe did, but I doubt it. She's snooty, not nasty. I've never seen the like." She took a breath. "After your behavior in the hospital, after you get your chest sawed open, we'll compare notes. For now, the man was decent enough to help Enid, and we're grateful. Aren't we, Maggie?" You know, this is You know what this is like. This is like getting in trouble at school and being marched back to the classroom to humbly take your medicine. How do you know he's not a serial killer?" "I'm not," said an amused voice. "Don't you just have the worst habit of sneaking up on people?" she said. "This old man is a heart patient." "That's no way to warm back into my good graces, called me old," Sully said. "Besides, I saw him coming. Say what I told you, Maggie." "I might have been a little impatient today," she said, "and perhaps I didn't show my gratitude very well." "She was an ass," Sully said. "Not like her, neither. You want a little pop, son?" You're on," he said, sitting on one of the stools. "How about a chiva? Neat water back." While Sully pulled the cork out of the wine, he talked. "So, Maggie here's very tough, but tender-hearted and usually very good with her manners. Much better than I am, but I think putting up with me for 3 weeks since this operation just plain ruined her." He pushed a glass of wine toward Maggie. "She isn't going to do that again, unless you give her trouble." "Don't give her trouble, son. She's very strong." Maggie the bold and strong, she thought. "I don't have any trouble in me, Sully," Cal said, with a chuckle. "I'm just checking out Colorado." "And what are you doing there?" "And what are you doing here?" she asked. When both men looked at her, she held up a hand. "Hey, no offense, but people usually have a reason for finding themselves at Sullivan's Crossing." "No offense taken," he said. "I've been doing some hiking here and there, hiking and camping. There's a lot of stuff online about hiking the Divide, but you don't want to hit the Rockies before May, and that might even be too soon." "Not this year," Sully said. "It's an early thaw. We damn near washed into the lake one year with an early thaw. The snowpack flows to the west, but we're not without our wash. I gotta figure out how to get that garden in without lifting a finger." Maggie laughed. "Once again, he talks about me like I'm not even here. Of course I'll help with the garden. So, you think you might hike the whole CDT?" Cal shook his head. "I don't think so. Just a little piece of it. But I'd like to get up there and see what I see. I'd hike and camp for a few weeks, then I'll decide what's next. Montana, maybe, or Idaho, Canada, but not in winter. Over the years, Maggie had learned that you don't ask a hiker why they take on something like the Appalachian Trail or the CDT. They're driven. They want to be stronger than the trail, to break it, or maybe just survive it. The CDT is the longest one, Maggie pointed out. It can get lonely out there. I know. I like the solitude. I also like the people I run into. People who want to do that are, I don't know how to explain it. It's like they have things to understand about themselves, and every single one of them has different things to figure out. And what do you have to figure out, Mr. Jones? She asked. I don't know. Nothing too deep. How about what to do next? Where to settle? That sounded like true freedom to Maggie. Choosing something new. She'd eventually have to go back to work in Denver. Right now, she was using Sully's rehabilitation as an excuse. She was needed here. If you like solitude, then just. And that must be why you chose this campground in March, Sully said, sipping from his glass and letting go a giant as he appreciated it. Maggie and Cal laughed. Doc says this is all right, but you can bet your sweet ass that bitch of a nurse didn't bring me no nightcap. Dad, you expect me to apologize for saying that? That was a simple, true statement. He shook his head. That one nurse, the one at night with the black hair and silver roots. She was mean as a snake. If I die and go to hell, I'll meet her there. Cal looked at Maggie and with a wry smile said, Long convalescence. 3 weeks of my life, and I'll never get back, Maggie said. Stay tuned for Chapter 3 next week. See you.